All right, welcome everyone to our Project Sidewalk Map-a-Thon training. My name is Maggie Sherwinski from the Active Transportation Alliance, and I have Dr. Yohai Eisenberg and Kiana McKee-Steen from UIC with me here today to lead the training. And for those of you who are new to Project Sidewalk, so this is an online tool, and it allows you to map the conditions of your local sidewalks and bikeways. And today we'll be walking you through like how to use this tool to identify accessibility barriers, we'll be giving you hands-on mapping experience, and we'll be talking about how you can involve others in your community because it's a really great tool to engage community members and get them more interested and aware of the transportation issues many people face getting around by foot, by bike, by transit. And this tool is also a really great way to capture accessibility issues in your community and making sure your municipal staff, your alders, your elected officials, your mayor is aware of these issues so that they can be addressed. So before we dive into the actual training that Kiana is going to lead, we wanted to have you introduce yourself in the chat. So we just want to know who's here, what communities are here. Maybe you'll see someone from your community or a neighboring community, but if you can in the chat, if everyone can add their name, their community, whether you're in a neighborhood in Chicago or in the suburbs or maybe somewhere else around Illinois or the nation, put that in the chat. And then also, we're curious, what is your favorite street for walking, biking, or taking transit in your community? So give you a minute to add that to the chat. We've got someone here from Anna from the South Shore. We've got Carol from Edgewater. We have, I think, Victoria from Elmhurst, Aaron from Des Plaines, Mike Chuck from Logan Square in Chicago, Charles K from Lombard, Marjorie from Westtown, Ahmed from Des Plaines, Steve from Vernon Hills, Bill from Naperville, Damian from the South Shore, Bruce from Naperville, Rochelle from North Lawndale, Dave from Lincoln Park, Saranya from the St. Louis area, Aaron from Logan Square and Garfield Park. So great to see. Oh, and we've got more people. Kyle from Albany Park. And check out the chat for the favorite locations if you're curious. And if you haven't already, keep adding your info to the chat. We've got Jessica from Washington, D.C., also has lots of friends in the Chicago area. Good thing is Project Sidewalk is open to the entire country. So, and Agatha from Chicago and Des Plaines. Great. So anyway, thank you all for being here today. Again, if you haven't had a chance to add your info to the chat, please add it. And before I have one more slide for you, and I'll pass it to Kiana. So just wanted to kind of give you an overview of the support we're going to be offering through Project Sidewalk. So today we've got the Map-a-Thon training, which again is being recorded. We'll make sure you have the recording so you can review if you need or share it with a community member that you want to get involved in this initiative. We'll have a follow-up training that we'd love to get you to attend. We'll have one tentative dates right now are Tuesday, January 21st and Tuesday, February 4th, also in the evening, as a way to check in, answer any questions you might have, and kind of give you some ideas on how you can use the data that you're collecting through Project Sidewalk as an advocacy tool and to really help create some change in your community and improvements. And we'll also be hosting throughout the winter and spring some monthly calls in the evening to provide additional resources, provide you more strategies on how we can use your findings to make improvements in your community. Um, so we hope you stay involved, and we really want to you know support you, and we really appreciate you and your interest in getting involved in this. And it's a very cool tool. So I'm excited that we get to introduce this to you today. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And Kiana, if you'd like to pull up your screen, um, and we'll have Kiana and Yohai introduce themselves. They're both from UIC, and from the Institute of Disability and Human Development, that department at UIC.
Thank you. And is the slideshow showing?
Yes.
Sounds good. Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to learn about Project Sidewalk. Your host for today, I am Kiana McKee-Steen. I'm the project coordinator for the UIC Project Sidewalk team. I'll let Yohai and Maggie, well, Maggie already introduced herself, but I'll let Yohai introduce himself.
Yep, and I'm Yochai Eisenberg. I'm a professor in the Department of Disability and Human Development here at UIC, where we get to do interesting research about disability and accessibility of communities.
Thank you. So for today's agenda, we have had some welcomes and introductions. We'll go over Project Sidewalk, learn about sidewalk features through hands-on mapping, mobilizing community we'll talk about, and then do a wrap up at the end. If anyone has any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat as we go along. So Project Sidewalk is a free online tool that allows users to remotely label and assess sidewalk features and problems. This approach is crowdsourced, which means that everyone from the community and anyone available collects the data. Users can include trained interns, city officials, and just about anyone with access to a computer. The data collected from Project Sidewalk supports improved planning efforts, data analysis, visualization, and community engagement. Project Sidewalk was developed by the University of Washington's Makeability Lab and is also a part of the National Science Foundation study overseen by UIC, the University of Washington, and Easter Seals. So before we get started, let's review the areas of movement in cities. First, we have a space dedicated to the cars, as well as sometimes a buffer or protection space for bikers. Not all, but most cities have a bike lane. There's the curb space where you'll see planters or seating areas. And then there's the pedestrian space, as well as the frontage zone, which can include businesses or homes. So for the purposes of Project Sidewalk, we will only focus on the pedestrian and bike zone. So on Project Sidewalk, there are two primary mission types. First, there is an auditing type where you'll find, label, and assess the sidewalk, which is on the left-hand side. And then there's also validating missions on the right-hand side where you verify and correct labels to ensure that the data we receive is usable and accurate. So let's review the key mapping features. So here on your screen, this is what Project Sidewalk interface looks like. At the top, you have label types, which we'll go over in a little bit. The Project Sidewalk platform uses Google Streets to get the information for mapping. On the right-hand side, we have overall stats. So that's for every mission that you've ever done, you'll see that information on the side as well as your accuracy. In the middle, you have mission stats where you're able to see the information for the current mission that you're on. And on the bottom right, you'll see the mission map, which is where you'll be able to see how far along you are in a mission. So can anyone feel free to take yourself off of mute, tell me what kind of feature this is?
that an ADA strip allowing wheelchairs to access get from the curb to the street?
Yes, sounds good. Thank you. So yes,
And
this is
can I also echo something else?
of course.
It's also an ADA compliance for folks who are blind. It helps them recognize that that's the edge of the sidewalk.
Thank you. That was great. So this is a curb ramp. So when you are mapping, you would click the curb ramp label and place it in the middle is the aim of the curb ramp. Once you place it, you'll see this little icon on here at the top. There is severity ratings. So one being passable, which means that it's completely accessible for someone with a disability. On the right is 5, where it's not passable. Someone with a disability wouldn't be able to get past there or access that sidewalk. In the middle, it's in between, and each label, it's kind of at your discretion to understand the severity. If there are any additional comments outside of the tags at the bottom that you think of, you can place it in that middle bar where it says description. And then in general, when you're mapping, you want to use the tags to make sure we know exactly what makes this area accessible or inaccessible.
And I'll just
So
add a
one,
little bit, Kiana, to that, just to say one of the features that you'll notice on Project Sidewalk is that each of the kind of items that you hover over is dynamic, and that it'll show you pictures. So for each of, we're going to talk about different kinds of features of the sidewalk and biking infrastructure. And so when you hover over like the 1 severity, it'll show you what a 1 severity looks like for a curb ramp, which would essentially be a very passable curb ramp, right? That's compliant. Whereas if you hover over the 5, it'll show you an image of a very inaccessible curb ramp, one that might be very steep or very broken up. So one of the neat things try to iterate in this first training is that, this is we kind of build into the system several different learning reminders and ways of engaging with learning about doing the rating as you go along. And part of that is the benefit of our team at University of Washington as human-computer interaction designers. And so they're really thinking about how to make it easy for the user to rate these features, use the system, and not get lost. So always look for those kind of hovering tooltips as well. The same thing with those tags, which are the descriptive tags that Kiana mentioned for what some of the problems with accessibility might be. Each of those has an image when you hover over it that you'll see to see, okay, what is a missing tactile warning? That's the strip that was just mentioned, that everybody mentioned, which was great. So excited to see so many people aware of that. And you'll see an image of what that looks like as a tag. Okay, back to you, Kiana.
Thank you. So there are 8 accessibility features that you will be using on our missions. There are curb ramps, missing curb ramps, obstacles and path, surface problems, no sidewalk or missing sidewalk, a crosswalk, pedestrian signal, and other or bike lane in this case. We'll review all of these features individually. So before we go over how to map, if you have access to a computer right now, we're going to start creating your account. So let me know when everyone feels prepared. A thumbs up or a hand raise. Great. Sounds good. So everyone, I'm going to put a link to Project Sidewalk in the chat.
I got you.
Thank you. A link in the chat for everyone to go to the website.
Well, excuse me, at this moment, I'm Jason Ferguson. I'm driving on my way home, so I can't get to the computer yet until I get home.
That's fine. We'll have all of this information accessible for everyone at the end.
Thank you.
No problem. So once on Project Sidewalk, you're going to go to sign in, which is that yellow button in the top right-hand corner. You'll see this screen pop up where you see email address, password, sign in. You're going to click on the bottom right-hand side of that pop-up, sign up. You'll create your username, enter the email that is most relevant and that you use the most, create a password, select if you're completing this for community service, agree to the terms, and sign up. So once everyone feels ready, we can
And that could be a good
continue.
plug for, recruiting college or high school students rather, who are looking for volunteer hours. This is on the website itself. It can track those for the students who might want to be involved with your project to help collect this data in your community.
So I'll give everyone a couple minutes to do that.
Excuse me, can I have a quick question? Why
Of
people
course.
figure it out? Thank you. So we engaged in a similar project in Rainbow Beach Park, right? But we did the survey of, of the road there, of the, pathways, through the park and stuff like that. But our purpose is to submit that, to the Chicago Park District for, repair. Does it make sense to map all those same, deficiencies and issues with the project Sidewalk? And can you please share with me what is the, ultimate goal of this project? Like for what purpose this data will be used? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question. So Project Sidewalk is similar to what you described. We are taking in data for the accessibility of sidewalks. It's a way for community members to get involved. It makes, mapping and understanding community accessibility, accessible for everyone. As far as the usage of the data, you're able to take down this information that you get from Project Sidewalk to apply to community efforts and improving cities. You're able to review on a map on Project Sidewalk the different issues within a community. And you can present this information at, city council, town halls, different things like that to help push your efforts for a more accessible community.
Okay, thank you
And
so
just
much.
to add on to what Kiana said, I think it's up to you if you want to, audit the same pathways that you had, it sounded like previously. Maybe there's been updates since then, I'm not sure. But otherwise, if you want to do, nearby pathways, perhaps kind of expand your area, that could be something that Project Sidewalk is helpful with in terms of covering a larger area than you might have been able to, on foot, with the thought that, especially nowadays, you want to be very careful going on foot and doing audits. But that's one of the benefits of doing these virtual audits is the scaling factor that you kind of scale up and cover a lot more ground.
Yes, that is very useful. And just one brief question. So can I share this website and have all of my pack, members do their own, mapping, or they can be only one person like me who, applied for this project?
No, so the sidewalk is public and accessible for everyone. All they need is the URL. And you can share all of this information with your team. So
Yeah, definitely hoping for teams to work
yeah.
on this and for you to recruit and involve whoever would like to. You know, what you'll see probably from this training is that while it's very easy to use and there's lots of helpful tips, there is some nuance to kind of learning about rating and doing it in a way that's accurate. And you know, you might ask like, what's this? Why do we keep mentioning accuracy? Like, why is accuracy so important? And you know, I think it goes back to what Kiana was sharing about ultimately what do you do with the data? If you want to advocate for changes, the people that you're advocating to, city officials, may have questions about the data and its quality. But if you can kind of talk about how all the raters who you involve in this project have we track accuracy based on other people agreeing with people's ratings. So if you can be able to share that, you know, the raters who collected data with your community all have above a certain percentage accuracy, right? And you're able to show that. I think that helps bolster your advocacy efforts, right? Showing that you have accurate data.
Okay, perfect. And I'm so sorry. And then how I can share this finding with the city, officials, like to make a case for, repairs to be done.
Yeah, I think there's a number of ways to do that. Maybe that's something we could cover. I think Maggie mentioned, but we're going to be having follow-up monthly calls, and that's something that I think we could discuss on our calls, some different best practices and strategies for doing that. On Project Sidewalk, there's a few different ways to create maps or download the data and create graphs, and we have some help documents for how to do that. And you know, you can think about using those graphs and maps, or potentially in other cases, what we've done sometimes is just kind of share specific locations and streets and images, and that's what cities want is you know, just an image of the problem. You know, show me the problem, we'll fix it kind of attitude. Not every city is like that when they have a lot of problems, and it's like they have to prioritize that, right? But um, I think part of it is thinking, you know, who you're advocating to, and then developing a strategy. But that's, I think, going to come a little later on in as we go through and collect data.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for your questions. These are great questions. Kind of thinking about where are we going with this. Hopefully, it helps other people as well.
Um, I wanted to piggyback off of a question that I think I seen in the chat. I don't know if it was answered about the accessibility of this application. Will we have accessibility via mobile as well to like use some of these features, or is this only a web-based application?
It only works on a web-based application on a computer or laptop for doing exploration missions. You can do validation missions on your phone, but to do the exploration missions, you know, there's a lot involved in terms of all the icons and kind of placing them in the right place. And there's some algorithms that the platform uses to know where you put the little pin that where and be able to geolocate that onto a map. So that's part of why for the exploration missions you have to use a computer.
There's a similar question from Aaron in the chat about just being able to sign in on a phone. Do you know if that's possible to create to sign up?
I think so, but if it's not working for you, you may need to go to the computer. It may be that it's like a pop-up and you're not able to see it. Oh, looks like William was able to do it on there.
Possibly try using if you're using a different web browser, because sometimes that can be an issue. So it sounds like everyone was able to sign up, so we'll continue. So first we'll go over curb ramp labels. A curb ramp is a short ramp that cuts into or builds up to a sidewalk. Curb ramps are often found on both ends of a crosswalk or a sidewalk continue, or when a sidewalk continues on the other side of the street, even without a crosswalk. The yellow tiles that you see in this image are tactile warnings. These tiles have raised bumps that warn people, especially those with visual impairments, as said earlier, that they are approaching a roadway. Some common mistakes that we see when mapping are sometimes, we get excited and may try to label a driveway. Driveways are not curb ramps, and they are intended for vehicles, not pedestrians, so we won't be labeling those. Also, driveways to garages can throw some people off. We want to make sure that we're staying on the pedestrian pathway. Next is missing curb ramps. Sidewalk intersections should have curb ramps, ideally two, one curb ramp per corner. If a corner has a sidewalk but does not have a curb ramp, a missing curb ramp label is needed. A lot of times we will see, a lot of times we'll see in especially large cities where the curb ramp is covering both sides of the street. In that case, specifically, if the ramp allows for a user with a disability to access both crosswalks, you won't need a missing curb ramp label. Some common mistakes we see, residential walkways. Those aren't considered public infrastructure for pedestrian. That's more private. So we should not focus on labeling those. Curb ramps are not needed on paths. They are also not needed when there is no missing tactile warning. If there's a missing tactile warning, do not use the curb ramp label. So let's practice. I'm going to pop in the chat our practice.
Kenna, what if we have them do the tutorial first, just to kind of get that kind of guided feel?
Yeah. Let
Okay.
me stop sharing my screen for a second. And I'm going to pop in the chat the tutorial so everyone can get acclimated with Project Sidewalk.
And I think if you hit explore, it should prompt you to take the tutorial.
So if you left the site, I'm going to repop in the link. And then from there, go to Explorer. And it should take you through the tutorial. If you're having any trouble, just let us know. Otherwise, we'll give you about 5 to 8 minutes to work on that.
I don't see anything
Yeah, I
in
don't
the
see
chat.
Oh, I'm
Did
sorry.
you?
It's yeah. Kind of just put it in.
Oh,
Oh,
there
okay.
we go.
There we go.
And then when we get there, we go to,
You're going to press start exploring if you're on the home screen. If you're not, just go back to the home screen and you can start exploring. It should take you on a practice mission where you're able to get a little practice on using the site.
I could share my screen just to kind of have a visual of what that looks like.
Thank you.
So this is what the tutorial looks like, and it's just an interactive way for, we wanted this session to be very interactive, not too much of us talking and you guys falling asleep after a long day. So, we're going to integrate several different interactive pieces. And this first one, you're going to go through and learn how to place what we call these labels. Think of them as like little dots, like if you had a set of little dots, you're going ahead and placing those. And so this interactive tutorial just walks you through that, and going ahead and placing those where it tells you to, and gives you kind of a walkthrough as we go along here. Kind of goes through several of the different label types. You can see this is what I was talking about with the examples of the different pop-ups. Low severity, medium severity, high severity. Then kind of shows you how to move around in the Google Street View space, such as by using the little hand and zooming in. So you can have a better look, because sometimes you're kind of far away from the place where you want to put a pin. So it takes a little time once you start, but once you get pretty comfortable with it, it moves along pretty quickly. I'll go ahead and stop sharing from that point. Anyone having any issues? There's
I
a
see
question about
one.
what we're doing. We're taking the tutorial, which is at the link projectsidewalk.org, and then explore.
Okay, this is Jason. I just got home and got to my computer. So I now need to catch up with you guys.
Sounds great, Jason. So you can put the link again in the chat.
Yeah.
www.projectsidewalk.org. Steve, if you're stuck on that corner, try to follow the prompts that are in the text box in the upper left. You may need to, it may be stopping you if you're not kind of following the directions there exactly.
Thanks. Yeah, I've ranked the missing sidewalk, added the tags, and pressed OK. And then it just kind of stays there. So I'm not quite sure how to get out of that.
Are you able to move your hands?
I
Move that.
can, no, there's a very limited range of motion.
If you feel comfortable, can you share your screen?
Sure.
Steve, I might have to give you access. This is going to make you a co-host. All right, you should be able to share.
So the Zoom button will be on the left-hand side, at the top of those options.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
So I've ranked it, added the tags, and clicked OK. And it's just continues to tell me to do that. I can't really see where else I'm supposed to go.
Can you press the tag for me? Sorry.
I can select or deselect the tags.
So we're gonna change the one of the tags. So the one that you selected at the bottom, it says street has no sidewalks. So when it's asking for that, it's on either side. So
Oh,
on that right-hand side, there's a street, not a
that was
street,
my
a
mistake.
sidewalk. You're good, you're good. So just change that, and I think it should fix you. Yep. So now you're able to
And this is
go.
only in the tutorial where it's restrictive like this, just because it's kind of trying to get you to press specific things. When we go into the missions themselves, everything will be available to you to
Yeah.
kind of put as you wish.
So you can stop sharing, you know.
Thanks for the help.
Yeah.
For T. Ladowski, try just following the prompt before you try to zoom. Once you press down the label, the pop-up should show the different severities in the tags as well.
No question.
Mhm.
So this is basically a sit at home behind a desk doing this with a Google set of maps that you're looking at, and you're not out there in the field actually looking at the streets.
Right.
That's
This
correct.
is a way for everyone to virtually access everything.
Mhm.
Um, but you don't
Okay.
have
One
to
of the
sit at a
things,
desk. You can sit in bed on your laptop, you know.
Mhm.
one of the
Well,
things people do sometimes though is, go out and maybe walk and take other pictures of the areas that they find as maybe high priority areas. So this doesn't have to, kind of replace on the ground reviews, but can, kind of supplement and work well with them. And that's where we've seen it work pretty well in some of the communities that we've worked with is kind of using the tool to help narrow down on very problematic points or streets or blocks, and then often the group wants to go there to kind of get, more of the essence of it and take pictures there. One benefit that we've seen in our area is the Google Street View car went around in 2024. So we have a lot of very recent imagery in those communities.
Mhm. So is this basically for walking purposes, or will this be good for bicycling as well?
Yeah, we just kind of through our, this is the project itself is crowdsourced in terms of its development, in that, through our connection with Maggie and the Active Transportation Alliance, they suggested
Mhm.
adding bike labels and tags. And so we've started to do that. Kiana's going to show you how to do that a little later on. But we're thinking we're going to need to build that out a little bit more as well. So it's
Okay.
a little bit
Phase two.
evolving, but we have few labels to start off with.
Okay. Phase two.
Yep.
All right.
As for the date of capture for the images, since it's Google Maps, it's updated as Google Map is updated, for the most part. Um, However, you know, the past 10 years is usually still very accurate. as improvements on sidewalks and streets can take time.
For the question about uploading images, we don't have a way to do that at this but we have heard that from other people um, about wanting that ability to kind of bring in newly captured images.
I will say though, I believe you can, if you have the ability to do so, you can actually, and I've done so myself, upload Google Street View imagery yourself with a 360 camera and upload it through Google Street View Studio. So
Right.
yeah, that's actually, if you want more up to date in your area for this function, you could probably do that yourself if you want to encourage Sidewalk to do that as well.
Yeah, totally right. Kind of work through the back end. That's great. What community did you do that in, John?
I did that here at my at the university that we built the bike shop at, and in the area around it. But I'm hoping to finish off missing parts on the Fox River Trail.
Oh, cool. It's exciting. Great. Well, we could probably move on. It seems like most people are
Getting the
taking the
practice in.
tutorial. Yeah.
Sounds good. Let me head back to sharing my screen. Here we see in the let's practice slide. Okay, thank you. Now that we've had a little bit of practice, we're going to go over sidewalk labels now. So as for sidewalk labels, as you saw, there was the obstacle and path. Obstacles are objects that are directly on the path of a pedestrian route, which ends up blocking that route. The ADA requires a clear floor or ground space along sidewalks, which allows pedestrians, especially those using walkers, wheelchairs, to remain safely on the sidewalk. So some common mistakes that, we run across while using Project Sidewalk is labeling, vehicles that may be parked near the sidewalk. However, if there is enough space or vehicles or anything in general, whether, it could be a obstacle, lamp, as long as there's enough space for pedestrians to move along on the sidewalk path, there's no need to label something as an obstacle. Sometimes we can get excited and start labeling the street. So we want to avoid that if it's not in the pedestrian pathway. And then another feature that you may have seen while you were labeling is that there's a temporary option. So in cases where there's construction or something like that, you can press that temporary button to let us know and let the system know that this isn't a permanent problem. However, as far as pathway things like a car that's in movement, you don't have to worry about labeling that as an obstacle as it wouldn't be there normally. There's also surface problems. A surface problem is a problem that will cause a bumpy or otherwise uncomfortable experience for someone using a wheelchair or other assistive device. Some common mistakes that we see is sidewalk tiles without cracks, gaps, or bumps. That wouldn't be considered a surface problem, or cases where there's cobblestone used for the sidewalk. As long as everything is in good shape, then it would not be considered a surface problem. There also, again, getting excited and going onto the street. As long as it is not on the pedestrian pathway, we don't need to worry about labeling that. And as you saw on the tutorial, cases where there's no sidewalk, this is when the sidewalk ends abruptly or there's none completely. It causes a safety hazard for people using assistive technology or people in general. If you have to walk on the street or walk around something, it can cause a hazard. Some common mistakes that we see is sometimes labeling of a median that separates the two sides of traffic. In this case, it's not intended for the pedestrian, so we don't need to worry about labeling that. And then another thing to keep in mind as you're labeling is remembering the angle at which you're seeing. So sometimes you have to move up or down the street to get a good angle of everything. Because in this case, the sidewalk looks very narrow, but there's still a sidewalk there. So, we should avoid labeling that as no sidewalk. So now that we've learned some more label types, let's do some practice.
Quick question, please, Kiana.
Of course, yeah.
That last photo you showed looks a lot like where I am, so I just wanted to ask a clarifying question. And that one on the left, I see that is a median.
Yes.
And also, and I don't see a sidewalk there either. I mean, could you correctly label that as no sidewalk somewhere over in the bushes or on the shoulder?
So in this case, this looks like an interstate possibly. Um, so in cases where there is no intention for pedestrians to use that area, um, then sidewalks wouldn't be needed.
Okay.
But typically, I think in most cases, if you don't see a sidewalk, you could use the no sidewalk label.
Yeah, there's a lot of like they're not interstates, but Illinois Route 60 and 45, like Town Line Road and places that they'll have sidewalks for short stretches and then they disappear.
Sure.
Like 4 or 6 lane stroads, essentially. I would like to label those.
Yeah, that would be fine, definitely. Especially if there's like gaps, and then that way, right, when you look at a map, you can kind of visually see and be able to share with, officials, kind of these gaps, or kind of show how broken up the sidewalk network is there.
Got it. Okay, I will. Thank you, and sorry for the interruption, Ken. Thanks for
No, great question.
You're
Anyone else
fine.
have questions?
Okay. So I'm going to pop in the chat a separate link that I want everyone, if you have the opportunity, to go to right now. And we're going to do some labeling with the types of labels that we've gone over. So curb ramps, missing curb ramp, obstacle and path, surface problem, and no sidewalk. The link that I'm going to provide is a test server, so it's not as restrictive as the tutorial slide. You're able to kind of move along and find your own issues. However, that information won't be saved, so you don't have to worry about, making any mistakes. So we'll spend some time on that. And if you have any questions or run into any issues, feel free to let us know.
I'm not sure. Is that the right one, Kiana? Because that I think is
Yeah,
okay.
it takes you to the
But
test,
that doesn't have the route.
the route.
The practice route on it.
Mine says it's not working, the link. The page isn't working.
Let me try again.
Try to look for the specific practice route.
Okay, this is the specific URL. And it should take you, you should see once you press start mission, you should see a prompt that says, let's get started.
I don't
Here's
see any. I don't see anything in the chat. Oh, here
here's
it
a
comes.
I think this is the one, yeah, that I was thinking of. Where it has the route ID.
Yes, that's the one.
Okay.
And Anna mentioned that the link works on Firefox, but not in Chrome. I think I was having the same experience.
Oh, really? Because I'm on Chrome and it's working.
Oh, okay.
I'm on Edge. So
Here's what the practice route looks like. Again, one of the features that Project Sidewalk will have is these like learning opportunities just to refresh your memories. So there's all these tabs and then different graphics for each of the label types, and then some examples of what those are along with common mistakes. So essentially a lot of what Jan just showed you in the PowerPoint is embedded in. And then when you hit start mission, it's getting you started in a a particular route that we've set up in Douglas neighborhood, I think, where we've kind of identified that they have most of the label types that we're seeing on there. So to follow the route, you follow the red line and follow the little gold person, and you see this little flashlight guy that helps to also kind of see where are you looking. So this is your chance to kind of practice putting down a curb ramp, putting down crosswalk. Okay. Anyone having trouble accessing the practice route?
Yeah.
Yes, still.
Says you need to disable your cookies. Maybe try on a different browser like Firefox or Edge. Or is it Safari for Mac?
I would say that like I've been using Project Sidewalk on Chrome, like outside of the tutorial, and it works just fine. So it must just be a tutorial issue on Chrome for some of us.
I hope so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, it should look as like the same screen as the tutorial, Aaron.
if you weren't logged in and you tried to go to the link, if you press, let me double check to make sure I'm giving you the right information. So I'm going to share my screen really quick. So if you aren't logged in and you try to access the link, you'll see this page. Nope, remove this. In this case, you're going to press skip the tutorial and start mission, and it should start you off. I was able to access the link, but I had to log out first of my project. Yeah, so if it sounds like logging out works, so um try logging out um and then try to re-access the link.
When you're going through the tutorial, you might get to this screen that tells you the mission is complete. Essentially, what the system tries to do is like set up uh, the missions as kind of short numbers of blocks so that people don't get fatigued too much. So a mission could be anywhere from 250 to 500 feet. But you can keep going on the practice mission by clicking keep exploring. And this will take you to both sides of and take you back to where you left off.
For the most recent question or comment in the chat, as long as it has a prompt at the top letting you know that it's the test server, then it should be fine.
And if you see, one of the things it showed me was to look at both sides. So I wasn't looking at both sides enough. So it prompts, so it's kind of analyzes user behavior to give you those kind of prompts. And I might, as I'm going through the practice route, notice this area over here is very narrow. Consider this an obstacle on this pole. So I'll show you just putting this obstacle label here, and maybe it's a obstacle about a 3 severity, and that there's a pole as the type of obstacle it is.
For the question posed by Anna, similar to Google Maps, it's frame by frame. So, we hope that everything is the most recent year. However, if the Google car hasn't gone down that street recently, then it'll be from the last time it was captured.
You can see as you kind of go further down on the practice route, there's some missing sidewalks. Sometimes you have to move around a little bit to get to be able to do the turn. Okay. So one thing you could do if you like, if you don't see the arrows that you want to use to go the direction you want, you can click this stuck button and it'll typically get you to the right place to be able to get back on the trail. And for each of the labels, there are like shortcut keys. If you're someone who likes to use the keyboard, you can use your keyboard, your arrows, and these shortcut keys as well. Any questions as you're going through the practice route? Anyone getting stuck or having some issues with the practice route? Let's see. I'm stuck. How do you get into the tutorial? Let's put we're going through the practice route, so we can re-put the link in the chat for anyone who needs to start that.
I had a question.
Yeah.
What are some of the barriers that you all have had come up with the project when it comes to using the like visual interface for mapping?
For using the exploration missions?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think for some people who are kind of less used to using Google Street View, it takes them a little time to get oriented and kind of know how to use the tool and move through the Google Street View space. Some people get stuck. That's why we have that kind of stuck button. Trying to think of other issues. You know, we've had interest for people who have vision impairments, who are blind and low vision, to be able to use the tool. But we don't have the ability to make it accessible for people who are blind and low vision, because essentially it's an image-based tool, and if we were able to make those images readable, we wouldn't need to do the mapping ourselves. We have some colleagues who are, you know, working to do that, you know, using AI and whatnot with these labels. But um, yeah, those are some of the issues. So did that answer your question, Damien?
Yes, that did answer my question. And the reason why I brought it up for context is I was having some issues with the links that y'all sent, so I just looked at what my neighborhood has to offer, like the mission. And
Yeah.
it started me off on this awesome boulevard. I want to call it a boulevard, but it's called Stony Island.
Uh-huh.
And so Stony Island, for context, is like this huge street with I believe 4 lanes on either side with
Okay.
a grass median going all the way down from like 95th all the way towards the new Obama Library. Like the street goes directly to that area.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic street because it links an interstate highway to a huge street like that, and then that street goes down all the way into a residential area, goes through a few residential areas. It has commercial districts on the side. It has ample amount of sidewalk spaces, no bike lanes. It's mostly just road, and it also intersects with the commuter train and some other facets of like transportation infrastructure. Um, it's a good way to map, but one of the things that I'm having an issue with right now is that when I can't zoom the way that I would like to zoom in. So I'm like using my screen option to zoom in further because
Okay.
when I was doing a tutorial, one of the things that I noticed, thank you, Grandma. Sorry, folks. It's time for dinner. One of the things that I noticed was that you can't really zoom in that well. But when I was doing a tutorial and like practicing, I made a mistake and didn't zoom in, and it's like, yeah, you missed this infraction. So I want to make sure that I'm being efficient with this as well. So if I do come across an issue like that, is it okay to report it to you all and like just like have you all help me out with it or
Yeah,
something?
for
Okay.
sure. Yep. Yeah, we'll share our emails, and then also um, we'll one thing we'll do is share with you our Slack community. We have a Slack uh, set up, and one of the things that's nice there is the whole community of people, and you can kind of share your questions or problems, and the developers are on there as well. So, sometimes they're able to help people out with certain issues with the website itself.
Thank you. And I use Slack pretty frequently, so that's awesome.
Yeah. And I see Colin's question about, it being misleading to the actual status. And I think that's true. I think part of this is kind of framing of understanding the strengths and limitations of this approach and of the data. I think, in a sense, um, you know, it's more of a problem to me when there are issues. Like it's less of a problem to me if let's say you flag an issue but it's already been taken care of versus and there's an issue but it's not flagged. You know what I mean? I think it could be easy for a city to just say, oh yeah, we already fixed that, right? But if an item isn't flagged, that's worse.
Yeah, I can see it for the example that Erin gives where, the sidewalk has deteriorated since the Google mapping was done, then I would flag that as still an issue. You know.
Right. Yep. Yeah, no, for sure. I think your point about consistency is kind of the key that we're trying to go for, kind of set up a consistent approach as much as possible.
Well, there's consistency in data, but if the data isn't valid, you know, you can be consistent
Yeah,
and wrong, and I'm
yeah,
not sure what the
yeah,
value of that is. Yeah.
yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. And that's where it depends on the image, dates. One of the nice things if you want to download the data, each point will have an image date associated with it. So you could get a sense for, how much of the data was, based on images that was before 2022 or how much was after.
Mhm.
Yeah, and if you once you get more comfortable with mapping and the data is there, there's an option on the website for you to review. There's a whole map of everything and it shows all the different points and the different levels of severity. And you're able to, if you know there's a specific street when it comes to presenting the information, you can flag that specific label or issue specifically.
Yeah, because especially if we're using this for local advocacy work, we'd want to be up to date. We want to know what exactly is happening, but we'd also want the aggregate data to give, an overall status of what the city or whatever is at. Yeah, okay. Is there any way to link a team within the application? So I'm thinking like we would take our city, there's a few of us on the call, and we'd want to map it, but we'd want to presumably coordinate to do, areas of interest first. Is there any way to establish like a team within the app?
There is, yeah.
Mhm.
And if you go to like the tools, um, maybe I'll share my screen again. It's not automatic, but if you essentially want to request a team and give us a team name, you'll get a team, and then there's a leaderboard
Mhm.
that shows different teams. There hasn't been that much done this week, but we do have. Oh, I guess this is a test server, so we don't see exactly
Yeah, I see a
all
lot
the
more
current.
on the actual one. But
You see a lot more, yeah.
yeah, but if I go to tools, leaderboard, how do I actually request to create a team?
Right. To request a team, you'd have to email us,
Oh, okay,
and
yeah,
and
right.
and we could
Hmm.
set up a team for
Yeah.
you. Yeah. If you wanted, what city are you in?
Displays.
Des Plaines, yeah. So we could
Hmm.
set up a Des Plaines team.
Okay, cool.
And if you wanted on our Slack channel, we probably set up like a separate Des Plaines Slack channel.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Okay, that
yeah.
would be good. Cool. Yep.
Yeah. Can you post a link to the Slack channel?
Yes.
Uh, Question. So, what is the benefit of working in a team for this particular project?
Yeah. Having more of a crowd to help gather the data is
Hmm.
the benefit.
Yeah.
And getting more people involved, also for kind of ultimately doing advocacy. Um,
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes. I mean, the spreading the word about this and getting more people involved. But when it comes to the, actual work, because this seems to be just, web thing, right? Like one
Yeah.
person.
But my thinking is that as a team, we would agree what area we thought we'd focus on. So let's say displays, we would focus on downtown. It's much more pedestrian, used. And then we'd probably radiate out from there to areas we knew that were more pedestrian used. I'm not sure what the word is for that, but
sure.
but then focus on schools, train stations, but we would be working to complete those areas rather than just randomly wandering around town, adding little bits here and there.
Right. So, I mean, my goal is to map the neighborhood where I live and to involve, other people in the South Shore. So, and, Seventh Ward in general.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so I think there's some different ways to go about doing that. And I know through the application process, we had some different interesting ideas that some people shared about kind of setting up a competition, because we do have this like leaderboard. So setting up a competition or having prizes for people who do the best, most rating or most accurate rating.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you can see all of that in that leaderboard. I'll share my screen really quick before I get to you, Steve.
Mhm.
So I came across Project Sidewalk as a student of your highs. So I was in a group myself, and I still am technically. And you're able to see that leaderboard. So I'll see if, in the terms of competition, seeing who's doing the most and who's the most accurate. So let me share. So on the bottom right, where I'm kind of circling, that was my group, and you'll see the username, the amount of labels done, the amount of missions done, the distance and accuracy. So that's a good way to entice, and you can see in comparison to and all the users for the week and the overall leaderboard and see what team is winning. If you're going against another city, you can see who's doing better.
Okay, well, if there are some prizes, monetary especially, we will be, motivated, right? To do that teamwork in that sense. Also, this Slack channel that you share, this says that only, allowable domain are uw.edu. The Slack. channel link that you shared. I don't think that I can access this. Do you have, I know, invitation code actually for the Slack channel?
I see what you're describing. If you want to use your email, then it should be above that. Um,
No, I think it's restricted.
Yes.
Like
Oh, okay.
for those users. Maybe if you can just post an email,
Sure.
where we can, if we need to like add a team or have something else, if we run into an issue, that we can contact you.
yeah, and we'll send
Yeah.
out an email with all of
That's
the
handy.
information and links following the meeting.
Awesome. Thank you.
Steve, what was your question?
Thanks. Should we be indicating when there is no painted crosswalk, even if there is a curb ramp?
Yeah, so do you mean for a street that where the street has no crosswalk there?
Well, the first one it showed me, there's curb ramps on each side of the street so that you can
Hmm.
cross, but there's nothing indicating that it's a pedestrian crossing that's painted on the road. But I don't see any option for just saying that there's no crosswalk there.
Right. Yeah. For those, we have typically used the guidance of only putting crosswalks where there's a visual indicator of those.
Okay.
Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
sometimes in terms of advocacy, what could be done is to still like look for areas, right, on your, if there's a particular area that you're looking at, and to when you're at the mapping stage to highlight, you'll be able to see which are those intersections that have missing crosswalks and whether those are ones that are important to advocate for. So it's kind of the absence of the crosswalk label that
Mhm.
leads you to do.
Okay. And then validating. That is just sort of like a peer review of other people's things. It's or is that actually in the real world when I see something and I want to go check and see whether it's been fixed or not?
Yeah, so that's peer reviewing other people's mapping. We
On
won't go over that today, but in one of the follow-up sessions, we'll review that.
Thank you.
No problem. So for time reasons, we're gonna continue on with the presentation.
And I did get another link for Slack. That's how quick our team helps out. So that one should work. Should be able to enter your regular email to be able to join the Slack channel.
We'll all return back to the Zoom. So as you saw, there was also a section for other accessibility labels. So, as mentioned, crosswalks. Crosswalks are a marked part of the road where pedestrians have the right of way to cross. Crosswalks often are indicated by zebra crossings or those perpendicular lines. So some common mistakes we'll see is crossings with no visual indicator. In this case, we won't be labeling that. Sometimes people will see the stop line and confuse that for a crosswalk. However, that's meant for cars. So we don't worry about those. And then cases where there's a speed bump that has some sort of visual indicator, it's not meant for the pedestrian, so we do not label that. Next is pedestrian signals. A pedestrian signal is a light or sign that tells pedestrians when it is safe to cross the street and shows how much time they have to do so. Some pedestrian signals are activated by a pedestrian push button at the waist. They can also sometimes have them at the bottom of the pole. As you can see on the right, we have this one at the waist level. Some common mistakes that we see is a pedestrian sign meant for cars. So signs where it's to indicate that there is a pedestrian crossing. We do not label those. We're only focused on indicators used for pedestrians. If there's a pole with no sort of pedestrian signal, don't worry about labeling that. And if it just has a traffic light, there's no need to label that either. Lastly, as far as tags go, there is the other tag for the cycle lane. The options are protection from traffic, no protection from traffic. So that's a protected versus an unprotected bike lane, which you can see in the two images. The top image is a protected bike lane where you see that there is some sort of median to prevent cars from entering the bike zone. And then in the bottom left image, it is unprotected. So it's just space there, but there's no sort of barrier for the bikers. There's surface problems. If you see on the bike lane, you can click that. If there's faded paint, click that tag option. If there's debris or pooled water, if there's a parked car, there's an option for that. So if the car is blocking the actual lane, that's when we would use that. And then if there's a cycle box, we can also label those. So let's practice. So let me check the time really quick. We could still practice. If you feel comfortable or want to, we can go back to practicing. We'll do that for about 10 minutes, just trying to find issues with those new labels.
So I'm sorry, which link should we use to get this particular practice?
Yeah, the practice route that you were just, excuse me, using will be continuing on in that case. Just trying to look for those new tags. So looking for any bike lanes, looking for any crosswalks or pedestrian signals.
Do the cycle options appear in the main application? I'm looking at that and I'm not seeing them.
Let's see.
I have pedestrian signal and then other, which is I can't see the sidewalk.
You know what?
Yeah,
In the
so
test server, they don't show up. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm
Uh,
looking, I think, at the
oh no, wait, they do.
the full
they
blown
do.
app. Yeah. So maybe they're in the test, but not in the main application.
No, they work
They
in
should.
both.
Oh, all right.
Um,
I'm not seeing them.
so I'll share my screen just because it's um you have to take extra steps to get to that specific
Oh, okay, got
frame.
you.
So let me stop sharing the slide and I'll share here. So as you can see, let me move that out of the way. You press other.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to press other again.
Okay.
And then when you place the label, oh, I lost it. When you place the label, there's
Uh,
those options.
oh, okay. So it's right. Got you.
Yeah, so an additional option on there is no bus stop access. So if you see a bus stop with no access to it for a wheelchair user, you can also use that. How do I get to my city? It is not listed under Chicago. I'm logged in. We'll go to how to select your city at the end. If you feel comfortable, could you let us know the name of the city? Or if you can send a direct link if you're not comfortable sharing it with everyone.
So is this under Explore, How to Label, API Tools, or Chicago? Where do we go to get to this page?
Which page?
The one that we're supposed to be testing.
So were you doing the practice route with everyone?
I was doing the validating obstacles and the other, all that. So where do we
I'll
go to
put
get,
the link back in the chat.
what, so we can't select it from the screen?
Could
You could,
you?
if you feel comfortable, you could go on to exploring with just doing an exploration mission on the main server. The links that we were giving were just to kind of repeat the practice route.
Okay, so I'm on Explore, and then what do we do?
And then that should start you off. If you want to share your screen, we could also try to help you troubleshoot, but we're just kind of spending a little time practicing as we're going along. So yeah, if
Right, I've
anyone,
been through a whole bunch of these, curb ramps and missing curb ramps and obstacles and surface. I've gone through those, but you're onto a different. Which one are you guys on?
oh, we were showing bike lanes, how to
Yeah,
place a bike lane.
right.
Are you comfortable sharing your screen?
Sure.
I just made you a co-host. Okay, good. That should work.
Okay. All right. So here's
So press skip tutorial. Go down a little bit to your right. Press skip tutorial right there.
in here. Oh, okay. Got it. Skip tutorial.
So start mission.
Okay. Skip tutorial. That was the missing ingredient
Sure.
here.
And now you can label and make a
Okay.
point to look for those other accessibility labels. So the crosswalks, pedestrian signals, keep a close eye out for those. And then if you see any bike lanes, label those as well.
Okay. So they've got little tiny stripes in here. So they are marked, but they're faded, I guess.
Well, I think those are the lane
Oh,
markings.
you're right. They're lanes, so they don't have one. Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's a little hard. They have some words on the street.
well, so if they don't have a crosswalk, do I pull the crosswalk down there or not?
No.
So I just say,
Um, I would say try to move around a little bit. So turn your screen just so you can see. So in that case, right on your left, you have a crosswalk. So you can label that.
okay.
Just a quick question. So where do we go to do, labeling, like to do the work, like what we are supposed to do?
Yeah, so after today's training, once we finish, you would just go to explore, that explore tab at the top, and it'll take you, and I'll show you before we end how to get to your city to make sure that you're starting to label your community.
Okay.
Once we're in our city, do we just let it randomly select, or are we able to actually go to the places we'd like to map?
So once you start exploring, it'll just kind of plop you anywhere in your city so you can start mapping from there.
But we do have tools to locate you to specific places.
And
Maybe
there are
Kiana, we can
places where
show
I know
them.
that there are problems, so I'd like to label them.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you
I'll
can
share.
go to specific streets. We also have something called Route Builder.
Yeah, I'll share my screen.
Cool.
So going back to the main page, under tools again. Oh, there we go. This bottom option where it says Route Builder, you're able to go to the map and you can zoom in to the map. And if you know that there's a specific street that you want to do, say you want to do from this sushi restaurant to Dominic's, you would click out the route. If you make a mistake and go a direction that you don't want to go, I'll do that in a second. Then just click it again. Click the number and you'll just keep going until you get to your location. Nope. And then after you finish the route that you want, press save route. If you want the link for future reference, you can copy it and save it somewhere. And then on the left, it says explore this route. It'll take you to that specific route. And it'll take you down that path. That'll be your mission for that case.
Got it. Thank you.
No
If
problem.
it's longer, like this one Kiana made, it might split it up into several missions, but you'll be able to do the whole route. So, and then the other place to do that, Kiana, is on label map. You can zoom into a specific street and like just label that street.
Let me share. Just to show everyone what he's saying. Tools, you can go to label map. It'll take you to this screen where it shows the map and you just zoom on it. It'll show you current problems that's already listed. And just click there, click the street and it'll be a section of a mission. And you just press click here to explore that street and start that mission.
So it seems kind of painful to define a route or define a mission. That you have to do it every intersection. There's no way to block an area and then say, I'm interested in this area.
We do that sometimes for cities starting out. We may be able to request to do that if like there's a smaller area that a group wants to focus on, and we have to work with our developer to do that part.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, we've done that.
Okay, we'll head back over to our presentation.
I'll share also that, in terms of labeling and, a lot of questions come up as you go along. So on the project Sidewalk website, there's a how to label tab that can be good to use as a reference. And then in the Google Drive folder that we'll share with you, we have another PowerPoint slide deck that shows several different kinds of cases of, questionable labeling and how to handle that in different situations. One of the complicated ones, for example, I'll give you is alleys. So often in alleys, it gets a little bit tricky, and you could see that sometimes contractors who were going to fix it there don't really know what they were supposed to do. So you might see, a curb ramp on one side and not the other. So we have some guidance in those labeling documents about alleys and what to do, because curb ramps aren't actually required for an alley if it's completely flat and it's as if the sidewalk continues through the alley. So a curb ramp isn't required, and that's something that newer users get a little bit hung up on about what to do in alleys, because sometimes they'll see issues. But then you could still label problems that you see as surface problems. So those are just some additional notes about how those help documents could be used.
We'll come back to Zoom. Nope, it's gonna work. So now let's select your city. If not all cities are available, but a good chunk are. So you
And we will be opening up, like if you want to do this, if you're committed to getting involved with Project Sidewalk, we'll open, like, for example, we can open up Elmhurst. Um, and so we'll be checking in with you afterwards and open up the remaining communities if your community isn't open.
Thank you. In order to select your city and check if your city is open, you will go to your name, your username in the right-hand corner. Click your name, go to your dashboard and click it. And you'll see an overview of all the data and all the cities that's open. Zoom in to see your community, if it's too far out or if it's not isolated. Hover over your community and you should see a little pop-up and it'll tell you your name, community name, the amount of mapping that's complete, how much is left, and then it'll, give you the option to help finish that community. So you press click here and it'll drop you, and then start the mission and it'll drop you in that community. So in terms of mobilizing your community within the link that everyone will have access to, there's some default flyers and information for sharing the information. You can organize a map-a-thon of your own and get your community excited for a more accessible city. All of this, the slides, extra tutorial information will be within the shared folder. Yohai, do you want to expand on Slack anymore or no?
Yeah, this is just kind of a community of users. We have, you could see we have cities from kind of around the world involved in the project. The developer team posts some different updates sometimes here. This is also a place where you can ask questions. We have probably either the Chicago channel or the volunteers channel where people could ask questions, or sometimes if you have, want to take a screenshot of what you're doing and have a question about it, you can throw it into Slack and other people can answer you.
Thank you. So are there any more questions left?
Anna is asking about the shared folder. I think we'll share that out in a follow-up email.
Yeah, so if I'm gonna put my email in the chat. And then go ahead and just send me an email so that I can send that information out to everyone. Are there any more questions?
I just want to add that I know some people signed up for the training and they were open to mapping anywhere. And you can, when you log into Project Sidewalk, you can look at the map. Obviously, you're in Chicagoland. You can look at the map of Chicagoland. All of the communities in Chicago are currently open, so that's a place you could get started. There are a few suburban communities open right now. You could drop in one of those communities and just help out that community with mapping their sidewalks and bikeways, and just get started really anywhere on a mission, if you're kind of open to helping the region.
So we're kind of in charge of our own cities to figure out kind of how our teams are going to divide it up and take different portions of it.
Different portions of the mapping.
Yeah, like
So
we're
if
in charge of that, or it's not something you're doing. You're just letting us run with it with our cities, right?
You got it.
yeah,
Okay.
so, if someone in your community or family wants to map out the community, all you have to do is have them create their um profile, and they'll be dropped somewhere in your community, and you just go along mapping until the entire community is mapped.
How does the validation work? So I'm a newbie. I do some work. Can another newbie come and validate what I do, or is there some kind of a hierarchy?
Us, everyone has access to validate, if you want to come across random validations or random audits.
Oh, I see.
However,
Uh-huh.
it'll
Hmm.
come across multiple people's screen.
Okay.
So,
Hmm.
you know,
Okay,
that-
so it's posting those out to folks to say, hey, do you want to validate, rather than someone explicitly going in and saying, I want to validate this route or this town. Mhm.
right.
Okay, cool.
There's a question about prizes. I think that comment was essentially just that there are part of what you could do with the kind of stipend that Active Transportation Alliance is giving is, potentially set up prizes for your team for the people who do the most auditing or have the most accuracy. So that was something that some of the applicants shared that they were doing in terms of using the um, stipends.
And I would also add, so the stipends, we had a call for applications back in November, and 10 community groups were selected to receive a stipend for $300 each. So not everyone has a stipend, but that doesn't matter. Like if you don't have a stipend, you can still get involved in Project Sidewalk and still get other people involved. We're kind of doing a pilot right now with the stipend program, and if it's successful, we're hoping we can continue doing this for more communities. But for now, we're giving this a try. But if you don't have that stipend, I think you can still get people excited about using Project Sidewalk. And I think just the competition alone can be an incentive. Like if you look at that leaderboard, it can get people excited to do more missions.
Any more questions?
Quick one. I've zoomed in on my city, and I'm not sure quite how to select a city. It's not letting me grab anything. So, I mean, a street. So,
So it'll
can I?
just place you within the city, so you can share your screen.
Mhm. Okay. So here's part of Naperville. So,
Can you zoom out?
mhm.
Hmm. That's strange for me.
So if you,
Are you
this is
logged?
the label map. So if you see where there's those gray streets. So it appears that when we were working with the group here, they only wanted a certain area around this transit stop. So we didn't open up all of Naperville. If you would want more of Naperville opened up, we could do that. But if you zoom in more, um, and kind of hover over one of those streets, those
There
gray
you go.
streets, yeah, click
Oh,
on that and say click here, and that'll start you off on an exploration mission to go and
okay.
evaluate those streets.
Yeah, so the idea would be to open up all of Naperville, I suspect. I mean, has somebody else done downtown Naperville already? It sure looked like
I
it,
think there
right?
was some data collected there. Yeah.
Can you share a
Okay.
screen? We're not seeing it.
It says I'm sharing it.
Yeah, I'm able to see it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I would start a mission and then go from there.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, because this is where we were. So these gray areas have had some work, but there's a lot of space here to continue. So
Yes. Right.
there's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of streets.
Okay. All right. So you can open that up if we wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah. If we have the kind of follow up with interest. Yep.
Yeah. Because right now, yeah, there's a lot that needs to still be
I
accessed.
mean, doesn't even cover downtown.
Downtown is, yeah, down here, right?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, but I'm out here, so it's not even underneath the Naperville umbrella. So this is Naperville all the way out to this area. It's
Ah.
not just this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I'm over here. I'm over here, and that's not even,
Well, and it goes
Yeah.
down to 95th Street. So I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's
So
like
here's 50. Yeah, here's 59. I mean, it goes at least over to 59. It goes north of the tollway. It goes all the way south. Yeah, there's a whole bunch here that's not even included in
Okay.
this. It's 25 square miles.
Okay.
So see if you can widen it out, broaden it out,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
Sure.
take a while to figure out how to do all that. Okay,
Sure.
thanks.
Yeah. Great. Anyone else having any questions as they're going about doing audits? Great. Well, do we want to just mention, I guess, the second session?
Yeah. So our next session, and I believe you received in the email an invite to if you want to sign up for, will be next Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m.
And it'll be a similar training as was today. So it's really if you want more practice with Project Sidewalk and have more questions as maybe you're working on it over the weekend or this next week. Feel free to join us again. And then we're planning on doing kind of more of a follow-up check-in, which will be a more of a unique session on Tuesday, January 21st and Tuesday, February 4th. Those are the tentative dates, so we'll send out a follow-up email with those details soon.
Yes, and just a reminder for everyone, don't forget to email me or send me your emails, or if Maggie already has them, she'll send it over to me so that I can share the folder with everyone.
And then in that next training, we'll go through validations and then some of the other tools on Project Sidewalk.
Any last questions? Well, if there are no more, thank you for joining us today, and everyone have a great night.
Sorry. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
Happy mapping.
All right. Good night,
Can
Aaron.
I ask questions in Slack? I'm sorry.
For sure.
Yes, definitely. Slack
Okay.
is, yep.
Sweet. I just uploaded my account, so I'm gonna shoot a question in there. And thank you
Cool.
all so much for hosting this training session. It is a lot of layers. However, I feel like this is going to be a very equitable and sustainable way to advocate to all types of civic politicians and whoever we got to talk to get these things done. I'm like super excited to be doing this. So thank you guys.
Awesome. We're
Thank you. It
excited to
sounds
have
great.
you on it.
Yeah, thank you.
I guess we could stop the
Oh, yeah.
recording.
Thank you.